Okay, can I have your attention? We'll get started. Got a lot of things to cover. Our meeting today, we do have the sandwiches in back, so feel free at any time to wander back there and get something if you need it there. I want to do a thank you to Stan and who do we have? Jim Beardsley, I saw, Al Rivard, Bonnie was there, Ed Jacobson, all helped getting the pop and the setup there, so thank you for that. The agenda, first we'll cover a little on club status, and then we'll get to our main topic. Future meeting, our next meeting will be May 15th, and that's in a different room. It's in 275 Northeast 200, which is the smaller room up on second floor there. And the reason we've had trouble with rooms the last couple of months is they're redoing the room over there, and so rooms have been hard to get, and we've kind of gotten bumped out of rooms there. So hopefully we won't get moved from this. And our topic next month will be on legal software and sites, and we'll be talking about wills, living trusts, doable power of attorney, healthcare directives, some of the software and ways that you can manage some of that. In addition, we do have a Macintosh SIG. Their meeting is tomorrow, and they're going to be talking about, he just put out the agenda today, they'll be talking about the news and updates, how to choose a new iPad, and what to do when you get a new iPad. So if you have any interest in that, that's over at the 201 Auditorium, and that's a Mac SIG. Our officers, Jim Holman is our president. There's Jim. Linda Brown is our vice president. I don't see Linda. Paul Ebert is our membership secretary. He hasn't come in. Mike Griffin is our treasurer and Mac SIG. Stan Miller, somewhere in back there. There's Stan. He's our secretary and coordinates all of our food deals. Andrew Petrucci is our communications coordinator. And my name is Tom Kreuzer. I'm a director at large. PC members, old and new, if you're paying your dues, you can get it to Paul, or since Paul isn't here, you can give it to myself or Jim there, and then we'll make sure it gets done there. And a reminder, if you're changing your emails, make sure and notify us, because that's the way we send out these notices and other things. If you have suggestions for topics, talk to any of the board members or email us. And if you want to volunteer to present on any hardware or software, let us know. We also have our monthly eBytes newsletter that we're looking for any short article or long article. It can be whatever you want. We have our website, and that's listed in the back of the handout, and there we put our slides. So like I'm recording the meeting today, the slides and the handouts and the recording will be out there. Also, we have a deals section in our monthly newsletter. Any club questions before we get to the main topic? Yes.
So is it easier to meet 201? Would it be easier for you to get a meeting here?
201, we've had discussions. The board has had discussions about rooms because 201, the way the Mac SIG does it is they don't go through the official registration policy. We have to go through the official registration policy for rooms, which means that we can only reserve 90 days in advance. And if any other group wants it, we get bumped. So we're looking into some alternatives. 201 does work well for the Mac SIG. It would probably handle enough, be big enough for this. One of the issues is parking and stuff like that, and it's people have to be escorted there, and so there's some other issues. But we are trying to look at some things there. Okay, any other questions? Okay. And feel free to go back and get anything or that as we go along. The main topic today is viruses and security, and I'll be presenting. My name is Tom Kreuzer, and just like this little guy down here, you don't want to be carrying the sign around, please hack my computer. Hopefully after today you'll have some tips and techniques and software to protect yourself. Viruses and security is a combination of safe computing practices and security products. No product alone will ever be able to provide complete security. So you can have the best software in the world, it still has to work in conjunction with the user. You also need to be careful and aware of what you're doing. If you're not part of the solution to protect yourself, you are the problem. And unfortunately, a lot of machines that get infected and problems that occur are because people have clicked on things that they shouldn't have clicked on, or opened things, or gone to websites or things like that that they shouldn't have been doing there. Today, you need to be protected from cyber criminals who target large numbers of people in hopes of stealing information from a small percentage, who are easily tricked or have not adequately protected their PC. The reason this happens is it's a multi-billion-dollar business. There's so much money to be made. Companies are out there to capture information about you, and this includes legitimate companies like a Facebook, and they're constantly capturing information on what you're clicking on, where you're going, what you're doing. And in some cases, they're selling it to other companies, so there's money to be made there again. And the third thing that we have to be protected against is there are a number of hackers, and some of these hackers just create these viruses and things for the fun of it. They just want to see how much havoc they can reach and what they can destroy and do. Okay, what's your risk? Well, your risk, highest risks are with emails and attachments that you get. Could be content from a website, whether manually or automatically. When you click on a website and go to a page, there's literally hundreds of files and code, JavaScript code, and different things that are being downloaded and run when you go to that site. And again, a lot of it is very, very safe, and a lot of it is dangerous or could be taken over by hackers there. What's also at risk? Vulnerable operating systems. So if operating systems are made up of millions of lines of code, and in this code, there's lots of bugs or problems in the code, and these problems make it easy for hackers or people with viruses to attack your machine or collect information. And the vendors will continually put patches out to fix these problems, but if you're not installing those patches, or you're running an old operating system, you're very vulnerable to some of these attacks. Same is true of any software that you're running. Just like the operating system, software can have its own problems and vulnerabilities, and if you aren't keeping up to date with patches, you're potentially jeopardizing your computer. USB devices and others that you connect together, sometimes they're infected, and just by opening a file or transferring a file, you just then move the virus that way. Today, because of the internet, viruses and these vulnerabilities can spread around the world in less than 24 hours. Because of the internet, because of large platforms like Facebook and Instagram and things like that, stuff can spread around the world very, very quickly. Social engineering attacks are responsible for over 80% of the infections. So because a lot of us are on these different sites, you're clicking, you're not watching things that carefully, you can be clicking on dangerous things or going to dangerous sites that will cause problems. One of those problems is what's called a drive-by download or link, and that's where an attacker will craft a fictitious celebrity or current events pages on social media like Facebook and Twitter or news sites, even like CNN and even reputable sites out there. They contain links to access additional information, such as a video or an ad. Once you click on it, the link will exploit the software vulnerability which has not been patched on your PC and infect the PC. They target applications like Internet Explorer, Chrome, Adobe Flash, Adobe Reader, Windows Media Player, and literally hundreds of other applications. If successful, a small program is executed on the victim's machine and it reaches out to another web server to download and install malware, and that's usually called a Trojan. Yes.
Adobe Flash. In order to read the 3M annual report, you have to have Adobe Flash. At least I did. And yet, when I looked at all that, it indicated that it's very dangerous to put on your computer. So I'm trying to wonder, should I do it or not do it? My choice is not to read the report.
Yeah, if you have antivirus software and if you have Adobe Flash up to date and things like that, you're less likely to be attacked there, especially if you're only viewing or going to sites that you know, like in this case 3M. If you were going to some site that you didn't know, then potentially it'd be more dangerous there. But Adobe Flash, because it allows kind of low level into the operating system functions, is a dangerous application. I wouldn't say don't use it. I'd just say use it cautiously.
Can I add one thing to that?
Sure.
I would say if you're going to update Adobe Flash, you go to the Adobe site and get it, because I've seen reports where somebody put something else that says update here or Adobe Flash and it takes you someplace else.
Yeah, Chuck pointed out that you want to make sure you're getting the official update from Adobe and not a virus-infected Adobe Flash from somewhere else, which if you're just clicking an email, if you got an email that said, click this to update, you never want to do that. Okay, malvertising. These are malicious links embedded in online advertising or pop-up messages. The attackers will frequently submit legal, clean advertisements, and then they make modifications after it's been approved to be put on a site. And this could be any site again. Could be CNN, could be Facebook, could be anywhere. Malvertising takes the form of fake warnings. An example, your computer has been infected. Click here to verify your account. They pop up, they look like official messages, and try and prey on people that are vulnerable to thinking that something's wrong and that they have to click to fix it. When you click on the link, the malware is downloaded or attempted to be downloaded. Malware can be embedded in games, contests, toolbars, and other interactive online activities. So if you're loading extensions into Chrome and there's a ton of extensions out there, well, some of them are this malvertising. They'll pop up ads, they'll try and sell you things. You have to be careful what you're installing. Okay, password theft. Attackers scour social media sites to obtain personal information like pet names, birthdays, hometowns, street addresses, spouses, kids, phone. And that's because many people use the same account and passwords for multiple sites. This gives hackers who find out this information access to your financial, your email, and to other systems there. Information collected can also be used to answer the challenge question. So a lot of the sites now, especially banks and that, may have challenge questions. Well, if you're using common answers to these, all of a sudden the hacker is going to have access to your challenge questions. Yes.
One of the things to look out for is on Facebook. You have all these things that ask, what was your first car?
Right. Again, it gets back to what Jim's talking about is you don't want to give out that information to people that you don't know. And when you're answering these questions or you're filling out things, you're potentially publishing it to the entire world there, and you don't want to be doing those things. I mentioned here that criminals have stolen billions of IDs and passwords that are for sale on the dark web. And the dark web, if you're not familiar with it, is websites that buy and sell accounts, hacked information and that. You can find, like when Target was hacked or Best Buy was hacked and they got addresses and emails and information, passwords. Well, you can buy that information that was hacked there. And a lot of it, if you haven't been out there, is for sale for 40 cents an account or 50 cents an account. So I could go out there and I could do a search for Chuck there and see if I can find Chuck there, and I could buy his information for less than $1, and then I could try and get into his bank, or I could try and do something nefarious there. These are some samples of pop-up warnings and stuff like that, whether it's FBI type deals or they're attempting to look like a Microsoft window or a virus window or that. You just have to be careful there. Viruses can sit idle for weeks or months and then strike, and so a lot of them do not immediately show themselves because they know if they show themselves right away, you might be able to figure out where you got it, or you could restore to the previous day and things like that. But if they sit idle for a week or a month or 2 months, you may not, you try and restore back to a week ago when you thought things were okay, and you're not going to get, it's still going to be infected because it was infected a month ago. So your restore won't work there. Yes? Yeah, just hold on a minute, and I do have some slides on that. And due to time, I'm going to kind of rush through some of this stuff, and then we'll hold the questions till the end because there's a lot of stuff in here. Okay? So they can sit idle for time there. They can send your personal information by logging, sending your keystrokes. That includes accounts and passwords that you might have entered. They can encrypt your hard drive or delete files and software and then demand ransom to get it back. Or it could be a hijacker. Sometimes they're called bot herders. They turn your machine into a zombie, and then they use your machine to propagate other viruses, do denial of service attacks, send out spam messages. So there's ways that they can take over. So what can you do to protect yourself? Well, here I've got some things, and I'll also get into, if you do have a virus, some of the things that you can do. The number one thing is install the latest patches for your operating system, your browsers, your email, etc. Patches protect you against most viruses, because viruses, machines that are running old versions, are the most susceptible to being hacked because they have bad code in there that exposes vulnerabilities. You want to use the automatic or manual update that comes with most of the software. So like Windows 10 has an automatic update. You want to make sure that that's turned on and is running correctly, and along with all your other software. Used to be, I'd recommend a package called Sakuna. Sakuna was a very nice package, would scan most of your software. Unfortunately, that package is no longer around anymore. The best package out there now is a package called Patch My PC. It's free software, and the only drawback is it only monitors 300 packages. So it doesn't monitor that many, but it monitors quite a few of the most popular ones. And when you run it, it'll identify the packages. The green here are the ones that are up to date and everything's fine. The red here, you can see this Notepad++ and this Team Viewer. are running old versions. And the nice thing here is you can perform the updates and it'll go out, download the update, and automatically update the software for you there. So it's nice for the packages that it does monitor. Just be aware that it's not monitoring everything. The second thing that you can do is use antivirus software. You must be using, or you should be using, or I don't know how I could put it any stronger, you need to be using antivirus software. If you're an Xfinity or CenturyLink customer, you can install the free Norton antivirus online software. So there's no excuse, there's no cost. It's one of the best packages out there, and you can use it free of charge there. For everybody else, if you don't have Xfinity or CenturyLink, I recommend the free package Avast, and it's listed there. There's others out there like Kaspersky or Bitdefender, and those are good. They're better than the Windows Defender. If you just installed, Windows 10, Microsoft does have an antivirus package called Windows Defender. It's not the best antivirus, but certainly it's better than nothing. But these packages are better than Windows Defender and should be used there. You want to make sure that you pick one, you keep it updated, not only the package updated, but you also want to make sure that the latest version and definitions are getting updated. Make sure to uninstall any other security software that you may have had before. So if you bought a new PC, maybe that PC came with a 30-day free trial of software. If you just install, let's say, Norton Antivirus, you may have the two conflicting against each other, and that'll be slowing down your machine and making it unstable there. So you don't want to have two antivirus packages installed there. You want to only have one and make sure and uninstall your old one. As far as Windows Defender, Norton will disable the parts of Windows Defender that it does not need. So it automatically does that. But if you have another package, let's say you had your machine came with Kaspersky installed as a trial on the machine, you want to uninstall that and then install your software. Number 3, now that you've got your antivirus out there, you want to make sure that it's giving you the best protection that it can, and that means scanning incoming emails, attachments, and downloads, sites, and URLs in real time. So frequently, Norton and that has another part of it which attaches to your browser that you're using and will give you that real-time protection. You want to make sure that you turn that on and are using that. If you have an old PC, that may slow it down because, again, there's a lot of checks it's doing in the background and things like that. Don't turn it off. Buy more memory or buy a new PC. You don't want to not use the capabilities there. Schedule at least a weekly disk drive scan. So the virus should be going through all your files at least once a week there. Schedule daily updates so that the virus definition files, because new viruses are coming out daily, you want to get those new definitions and be looking for that. And here, as I've talked about before, I recommend that you leave the PC on at night so it can do these updates along with updates to your software and other things, and then it won't affect your performance when you want to. If you turn your machine off and left it off for a week and then turned it on, everybody complains about how slow their machine is, and that's because it's going through doing these scans, doing these updates, and all of it takes time. And that's why I recommend leaving it on at night. That way, when you do want to use it during the day, you're going to be able to use it during the day there. Some of the symptoms if your PC does have a virus. Pop-up ads appear even when no browser is open. Browser navigation gets redirected to unfamiliar sites. Security software you never install pops up a scary warning or holds your PC for ransom. You're infected. call this number and we'll help you remove it. No, you'd never want to do that. Posts or like that you didn't write appear on social media pages. Your PC slows down. This could indicate an unauthorized activity going on in the background. Or everything just seems normal. So you can have a virus and everything does seem normal there. These symptoms can also be caused by a number of other problems other than a virus. So you can see it's kind of hard to tell when it's infected or what it's doing. You're counting on your antivirus doing its job and doing most of the checking there. Okay, here we get to, if you do think that you have a virus or you have a pop-up or that, you want to make sure and get the latest virus signature files and updates from your antivirus vendor's website. Now, some of the viruses will try and disable this so you can't get to the website to update. But again, you should have been leaving it on. It should have been downloading the stuff and updating it. But if it didn't, certainly try and get it updated there. Once you get it updated, disconnect the computer from the internet by disconnecting the cables or unplugging your wireless router. Then run a scan to find and fix files. Usually, if it finds it, what it's going to do is it's going to remove the virus from the file and fix it. But if it can't fix the file, it'll quarantine the file and put it in another folder or give it another name. And frequently, all you can do with those is end up deleting them if you do have a virus there. If the virus scan did not fix your problem, you can use the Windows Restore to roll back or try and roll back to a time when you thought things were okay there. So if you figure a week or a month or 2 months ago, you could try and restore and see if that gets you back and working there. If you see messages, the best thing that you can do there is do a Google search for the message and then find the solution. But do this on another PC, a tablet, or a phone. So you can use your phone or a tablet, search the internet for that particular message that you're seeing up on the screen. Don't push any buttons or do anything till you see what they recommend. And sometimes they recommend turn off the machine, close the browser, do this, go into settings, change your default window and some things like that in there. If that does not work, you can hold down the F8 key in Windows. This boots it into what's called safe mode, and you can try and restore your computer from there. Worst case, you may have to reformat the hard drive and start over. Some people will take it to a professional technician like the Geek Squad or that. That can cost $200 or more to remove a virus. If you're going to spend that much money, maybe it's time to buy a new PC. And then if you are infected, make sure and inform people that you shared files with that they may be at risk also, so that they do scans and checks to make sure that they aren't infected. Okay, what are some other tips? Back up your PC, back up your PC, back up your PC. So if you didn't get that, back up your PC. Always make sure that you're backing up your files. You don't have to back up the entire PC. You don't have to back up Windows 10. You don't have to back up software that you've downloaded or things like that. You want to make sure that you have your data backed up so that, let's say your machine is held for ransom, your data is held for ransom. You've got a backup that if you had to, you could move to another machine and you could function from there. Or you could buy a new PC and you could function from there. Never download software files from questionable sites or links. So if you do get a link in an email or you are out on a site and it says click here to install, you don't want to just click blindly. You have to be aware of where that might be taking you and what you might be getting there. Be wary of games, peer-to-peer clients, any download claiming to be a free version of expensive software. Usually those are full of viruses and bugs there. Never open on unexpected email attachments or links. Be careful what you click on. Passwords. Protect your passwords and create strong passwords that are different. So you want different passwords on each site. Strong passwords should be nearly impossible for a hijacker or a hacker to guess. Never use family names, phone numbers, birth dates, or any social information that can be found on Facebook or other sources. And here I am emphasizing everybody needs a password manager like LastPass. This manages your passwords across all your devices. It'll fill in forms, do auto logins, secures your data, and you only have to remember one master password then. And you can see our past meetings, March 2017. Jim did a presentation on password management there for some more information there. Other tips, I think Chuck had sent me earlier this year. This just came out from Google. It's a Chrome browser extension for doing password checkup. It helps you to re-secure accounts that were affected by data breaches. So whenever you sign in to any site within Chrome there, it'll check your username and password against a list of known dark web accounts and passwords that are available for sale out there. And it'll let you know if it finds it out there so that you can make sure and change the password and possibly get rid of the account and create a new account if you have to. And this is just a link to some more information on that. If you use a public PC, make sure and log off when you're finished and close the browser completely. This is starting to become one of the biggest security risks at home. The Internet of Things devices, a lot of them have serious security problems. Our households are becoming full of these internet devices. Could be smart locks, could be cameras, could be plugs, bulbs, thermostats. All these things are connected to the internet. And if you aren't setting them up or you're using default accounts and passwords, you're just setting yourself up for a potential hack there. And so you want to make sure that you check out each of these new devices that you connect to your network, change any accounts and passwords so that they are set up and that your internet as a whole is secure. I mention this because probably 2 to 3 times a year I get an email from a member of the club, and they're telling me or asking if their friend's email may have been hacked because they're getting spam, and the from is from their friend there, and their friend didn't send the email. So they assume that there must be a virus or something must have attacked their friend's account and gotten in there. Well, in most cases, there is no virus on the friend's PC. The friend's email account may have been hijacked. So if it had an easy password, again, or the password was one that was hacked, let's say at Best Buy, and somebody bought the account from Best Buy for 40 cents. Now they have the password, so they may have gotten in that way. But in another case for emails, if you're not aware, there's ways to send emails where you can put any address in the from that you want. So if I wanted that email to say president at whitehouse.gov, I could send it all out to you with president@whitehouse.gov, and you'd think it came from them, and it didn't come from me. And there's no cost to do that. And the way our current internet is set up, there's no check to make sure that that email originated from president@whitehouse.gov. So you can't always trust what is in the from. That's what I'm getting at. And spammers will frequently use emails to try and get people, let's say at 3M, to open up an email. Well, they'll create an email that says whatever.mmm.com. And people figure, oh, it's got to be okay. It's from somebody within 3M. Well, no, they just spoofed the email address and you opened it up because you thought it was from somebody within 3M. Some other tips. If your PC is taken over by scareware, pop-ups claiming that your machine's infected by a virus and offering to sell you corrective software, don't click any buttons. Don't try and close it. Don't try and do this. Go back to section 5 where I said do a search on another phone, on your phone or another tablet or something to see what you should do and how to turn it off or how to get it out of there. Excuse me. You want to alter your personal information that you post on sites like Facebook. So Jim was pointing out the information that you put on Facebook, or you answer quizzes, or you do things like that. Be very careful with what information you make public, because you are making that public. Never use your real birthday. So whenever I sign up for accounts or anything, I put in a different birthday. I never use my real birthday. The only place you have to use your real birthday is like financial accounts or things like that. On social, no. All the information, where were you born, where was it, that's all information hackers can use there. For a tablet or a smartphone, never download apps from outside of Google Play or iTunes. They do all the work of scanning, or they do a good job. It's not 100% foolproof, but they do scan. Excuse me, I've got a little tickle. On an Android device, consider installing security software like Avast, Mobile Security, and AntiVirus, malware, Bitdefender. Personally, I don't install any of these on my Android devices because I don't want the effect that it has on draining the battery and the CPU. And I'm careful what I install and watch what I put on there, and knock on wood, haven't had a problem there. But if you are afraid of that, there is antivirus software in that for the phones. For wireless security, we just had a meeting last month on home networking, and there were a number of tips in there on how to secure your home network. Anti-spyware, anti-malware. Spyware is defined as programs that get into your computer and hides in the background while it makes unwanted changes to your user experience. It can track your internet habits, nag you with unwanted sales offers, or generate traffic to web host site. Some of the new machines today come with spyware already loaded by the vendor because they're trying to sell stuff or things like that. So spyware isn't considered malicious, it's just bugging. It bugs you and may collect information there. So it's not designed to damage your computer or hold it ransom. The damage it does is more of a byproduct of its main mission, which is to serve targeted ads and change the sites that you may go to in search results. Security suites that we talked about previously, they all provide a level of spyware protection, a minimal level, not a great deal there. If you think you have a problem or want to be better protected, there are additional software that can be installed. Spybot Search and Destroy, Malwarebytes, Bitdefender, AVG, these all have additional spyware software. Spam. We're not talking about down in Austin, the Hormel spam. Spam is unwanted emails. Why do we have spam? Money, money, money. This is an example, and I've used it for the last 10 years or so. Jermaine James, and this is true, sends out 10 million emails a day to people. 1 in 30,000 people responds to the link in his email. That's 350 a day that he gets. Jeremy makes $700,000 a year. Because when people click on the link and go to look up a product or to view a video or to do whatever, he gets a small amount of money. Well, you start multiplying it by these numbers, and that turns into a large amount of money. That's why people do it. There's money to be made. Never reply to spam or attempt to use a link or address that claims it'll remove you from the list. So I'm not talking about valid companies like Target or things like that. I'm talking about unsolicited email from somebody that you do not know. Don't click on any links. Don't try and take yourself off their mailing list. At best, your request will bounce an invalid email. At worst, the spammer knows that your address is valid, and you'll get even more email. Never volunteer to receive promotional email unless you know the company and their policy for sharing and selling their email. Read the fine print before you enter your email or use an alternate email. Never post your primary or 3M address on the web. Use an alternate email address. So you can set up free accounts in Gmail and Microsoft Mail, so you can have kind of these throwaway accounts that you use for signing up for a site that you really don't like there. When posting in public areas, disguise your address. And this is an example. John Smith 456 at, and then I've added no spam in there. .gmail.com. Well, a person looking at that is going to know to take out, or should know to take out the no spam if they were to email you. But these crawling programs that go through the internet to gather up email addresses isn't going to know how you formatted that, and so they aren't going to be able to send you an email there. Spam. Use current versions of your browser that notify you about known, forged, or phished sites. So again, a lot of the antivirus software has browser components, and those will keep lists of known sites that are problems and notify you if it looks like you're going to one of those. Turn off the preview mode or show images. Make sure spam filtering is on. And review the folder, because even though you've got spam filtering on, you're going to end up with some mail items that are not spam in your spam folder there. So you want to check those out, and rather than just have it lose it. This gets back to somewhat Jim's comment also too. Whenever you like a company on Facebook, so companies want you to like them, and people like to like things. Well, I never like anything. Because when you like a company on Facebook, you're giving them permission to your Facebook account. So they can harvest all that information about you that you've entered in there. Everything in your about, every message that you put in there, everything that you put in there, you've just handed over to them, and they can go through it and use it to try and sell you. Oh, you've talked about pickup truck. Well, we're going to try and sell you a pickup truck. You know, they can use that information. So don't like anything there. There's other sites for that. But watch out there. And don't go to the massage parlors like the Patriots there. Yeah. Phishing. Phishing is trying to get you to provide confidential information. So it's trying to get your numbers, Social Security, credit card, bank, PINs. It's estimated that 1.4 million websites are created every month to trick people. And you'll get emails. Emails are used to get you excited or upset that things won't work, about to terminate your bank account, credit card. You are a winner. Please update information. Site URLs that are close to and pages that look legitimate are used there because it's so easy to set up websites, to copy all the images, to copy everything there. You see all these sites being created to try and get your information there. Never assume that sites are taking you to where they say they're taking you. Links can show one address, but take you to a completely different other address there. You can hover your mouse over a link and you can see where it truly is going, but even there they try and disguise it. Some of them will use the IP addresses, so if you see an IP address, that's a dead giveaway that it's a spammer or somebody trying to get you to go somewhere where you shouldn't be going there. If you do have to get to your bank or to any reputable site, go to your bookmarks and use the links that you have there, or do a Google search to make sure that you have the correct link. Some links download keylogger software, which will record and report back every keystroke you make. That includes passwords, credit cards. You'll think nothing's happened, but or that the link is broken. Again, the from can be disguised in an email to say anything that you want, so be very leery of something that came from the IRS. The IRS says I have to quickly respond. Well, the IRS never sends an email to anybody. So right away, that's a dead giveaway there, that. Be suspicious of any email that asks for sensitive personal information, even if the sender looks familiar. Call a phone number from another source if you have a bill or whatever. Verify the message or link before going anywhere. Avoid filling out forms containing an email message or pop-ups, even if they appear to be from a legitimate company with whom you do business. 5% of recipients respond to phishing. This is a group that you don't want to be in. You don't want to be one of those 5%. So you have to be cautious about what you do. File security encryption. Encryption means reversible transformation of the data to make it hard for somebody to get at. Full disk encryption ensures confidentiality and integrity of a hard drive. All of 3M's laptops are encrypted, so if you lost it or if it was stolen, somebody without an account, the best they can do is restore the whole hard drive, reformat the whole hard drive and start over. They can't get any data off of there, any files or anything that you've got. Public Wi-Fi, you want to, the reason it's got public in there usually means that it's not encrypted. And you shouldn't be giving out passwords or anything, any of your private data when connected to a public Wi-Fi. The only time you should is if you have a VPN. VPN will encrypt it before it goes through the public Wi-Fi. Avoid using mobile apps. Some of those don't encrypt, and they're also vulnerable to somebody seeing your password or account. Websites, if you see the HTTPS, that means that it has a minimal form of encryption, and that you'll see is usually a little padlock here along with the URL saying HTTPS. Doesn't guarantee that the site is reputable, so you may be going to one of these phishing sites, which is made to look like a certain site. So you have to be careful. Again, just because you see the padlock doesn't mean it's the real thing or anything. I just mentioned another package here, File Shredder, lets you delete files and destroys them beyond recovery. Firewalls act as a filter on what can enter and leave your PC, while AntiVirus scans what makes it through the firewall. Firewalls can be done as hardware and software. Firewalls don't know the difference between software. A browser, a virus, spyware, it just doesn't know the difference there. PCs, when it was first designed, have 64,000 network points where they can talk between itself and other machines. And by default, all those are open for communication. Only a tiny fraction of these ports are actually used by users or by software, but unless you have a firewall, all these ports are potentially open to abuse by anyone from anywhere. A firewall will control what software on your PC can communicate out and what comes in. Improperly configured firewalls can provide inadequate protection and also hamper your legitimate activities. So if your firewall is too tight, your Quicken package may not be able to get out to do any updates or to get stock quotes or to talk to your bank. There's a fine line between what it should be doing and what it shouldn't be doing. A lot of them now come with defaults and wizards, and they know what software should be allowed and what to block there. If you need more information on what to block, you can usually do a Google search. Users of Norton Security Suite can use its firewall, while most others can use the Microsoft firewall that comes with Windows. So Windows does have an adequate firewall there. Okay, I went through that pretty quick. We've got time for questions. Questions? Yeah.
Is law enforcement doing anything to go after these people?
The question was, is law enforcement doing anything? Basically, there's not much that they can do. A number of these scams originate overseas, so they have no legal power. If you give your credit card number or anything like that, it's going to be traced to overseas, and money's gone. Nothing can be done. The other not so funny side of it is I mentioned the ransomware software, and you've probably seen in the news a number of police stations and government agencies and a lot of businesses have been hit with these ransoms, and they've had to pay upwards of $1 million to get their machines clean and their data back. So they're just as susceptible, probably more so susceptible than you or I, because they're a bigger target. Since there's more money to be made, and because they're typically using older software and older hardware, they're more susceptible to viruses and everything else. So there's not much that they can do. It really is up to the individual to make sure that they have software and settings correctly, and then be a little smart on what you click on and what you do there. Okay? I'm back.
I have Norton AntiVirus, and I have CenturyLink, and I also have the LifeLock. And LifeLock provides free Norton virus software. Is it should I be using one over the other, or does that matter? Because this was installed by LifeLock.
Yeah, the question was, LifeLock does come with some antivirus, Norton, a version of antivirus, and you have CenturyLink or that, which you can also get it. I'm not familiar which versions, because each of the companies makes all these different suites or versions. I'm not sure what the difference, or if there is any difference between the two. I guess in general, I'd say you're protected using either one. But if there was a particular feature that you're looking for that was in Norton, it might be available in one of the installs and not the other. So when I talked about a password manager, well, Norton also comes with a password manager. Jim didn't, I don't think, recommend that because LastPass and some of these others are better and available on multiple platforms, and so there's other reasons to use some of these packages. Okay? Yes, yeah.
But you used to recommend ABG. Is there a reason now that you would like to ask?
For this presentation, what I did is I do Google searches and I check to see what's being recommended out there amongst a number of sites there, PC Magazine, Tom's Guide, a bunch of other, and I'll see what their current recommendations are. And as I mentioned, year to year, this one may be a little better than the other one. Now, would I go through the trouble of changing? Probably not. But if you get a new PC and are setting it up, then it's time to think, to change there. Okay? Yes, way in back.
Is there any value to using a VPN routinely for your browsing?
The question was, is there any value to using a VPN? VPN, the advantage there, if you're not familiar, is VPN, instead of my PC talking with, let's say I'm going to the Target website. My PC talking directly to the Target website, it goes from my PC to a VPN server, and then from the VPN server to the Target. In between that, it's encrypted, and the path is kind of hidden. So Target doesn't see all the way back to my PC. So for certain sites where you want to remain more anonymous or not be able to be traced back, VPN is very nice there. It's also nice because everything's encrypted. So if I'm on a public Wi-Fi network or somebody broke into my home network and was trying to see what my passwords were, they wouldn't see anything. The downside of it is because it has to be encrypted, there's overhead in encrypting the data. It has to encrypt the data, has to decrypt it when it gets it back. Also, it has to make 2 jumps to get to Target instead of directly going there. So performance-wise, it's slower. So you're giving up speed for security and anonymous access there. So, you know, do you need it for everything? No. If you use it for everything, in fact, you will find yourself having trouble with some websites, because some websites are going to say, I'm a bank account and I know where you live, so I'm making sure that the only computer is from there. Well, VPN makes it look like the computer is somewhere else that's connecting to the bank. So frequently stuff like that has a problem with it, and if you're using some packages for streaming or stuff like that, that can be a problem because the streamer may not want anyone outside the United States, and some of these servers, VPN servers, are outside the United States. And you want reputable VPN providers, because if you have an unreputable VPN provider, they have access to everything that you have, and plus, well, there's problems that can occur there. So VPN service, if you're not familiar, it may cost you around $10 a month or upwards from there, depending on what service you want, and that depends on the performance. So some of the cheaper services, you'll really have slow performance because they don't have a large server bank, and to redirect stuff, it takes a lot of computing power and serving power and things like that. So there's things to consider. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there, I guess in terms of reputable, you can only go by doing kind of a Google search to see the experience that people have had. There are some free VPN services. I'd never do one of those because they have to make their money some way. Maybe they're selling your information to make their money. So if you do a search on what are the best VPNs, you'll get a list of the best, like Nord is one of them, and there's a couple others that are in the top 5. Yeah.
How easy is it to get to the dark web? I mean, could any of us find out what information about us on there?
Yes, if you just do a Google search dark web, you'll be able to. Now, it isn't just one website, because these are massive databases from all kinds of servers there, but you can go out there and you can scroll down through and see if your ID is out there. Certainly don't enter any information. But you can go out there and you can buy. As I mentioned earlier, I can go out there and I can check and see if I can get information on Chuck. Because with all the data breaches that have been around, there are so many accounts, there are so many passwords, there are so much home addresses, you know, when you signed up at Best Buy, when they break into Best Buy's database, frequently they're getting all that information on you, and that's what's out there, and that's what's for sale.
LifeLock does scan the dark web, and you can go to LifeLock and get what they have found.
Yeah, and
Safer
so here I'm in the Chrome browser. One of the add-ons I have here is that Google Password Checkup. So this is Password Checkup had access to this site, and it did not find that my account was being used on any of the dark web sites that it's monitoring, and that. So this is an example of similar to what LifeLock is doing and others are doing, is checking out there and seeing. But because there's been so many breaches over time, it's not going to be unusual for your account to be out there. What you should have done is, since that breach, you should have changed your passwords. You should have potentially set up a new account if you had to, but at least change the passwords, that all of a sudden that information is less valuable than it was at that particular point. Because just because something hasn't happened up until today, tomorrow I could go out and I could buy Chuck's information and I could attempt to connect into his account. So just because it hasn't been used, and yes, he used Starbucks 2 years ago, and the data breach at Starbucks got 80,000 accounts or whatever. You're not safe just because something hasn't been used. It could be sitting out there, and then somebody buys it, and then somebody attempts to use it. Okay? Other questions? Yeah, in fact.
My wife does a lot of communicating with relatives overseas, and she uses the internet for that. She's broken up WhatsApp. Have you heard anything about WhatsApp and security on that program or not?
Well, WhatsApp isn't really any different than a lot of others, whether it's Messenger within Facebook or Skype or any of these. You just, if you're communicating, most people use email without thinking about what they're sending through email. But email, by definition, is unencrypted, which means that email makes maybe 10 stops before it gets to its ultimate destination. All along that point, somebody could have looked at that email and all the information that's in there. So if you do have information that you do want to keep private, confidential, whatever, you don't want to send it in WhatsApp. You don't want to send it in some of these others unless you encrypt it. So if I encrypt a file, a Word document, send that through email, through WhatsApp, through whatever there, and then on the other end, they have a key or a password to unencrypt it. Now, if anybody looked at it in between there, they couldn't do anything at all with it.
Theoretically, that's encrypted on WhatsApp. That's what I've heard about.
Yeah, and what, if you're not familiar with encryption and that, there's all different levels of encryption. So the encryption, when you see the padlock up here, I believe Chrome is now at 128-bit encryption. And people think, oh, that's pretty safe. With as fast as the PCs are now, I could unencrypt this in probably 2 hours or so. Because all you do is you try all these keys and you look for a common words or a word or anything there. And so the more computing power you have, the more susceptible encryption is to being unencrypted, especially if it's a smaller key. So 128 bits sounds like a lot of information, but it really isn't. So a computer like this can probably go through all those combinations in less than 2 hours or so. Yes. No, I'm not saying that.
Letters again.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't do anything. You just have to do it with your eyes open. It's. I used to do this security, and I used to talk about. It's kind of like having a house. You don't want to leave the door open on your house. You want to put some locks on your doors. Well, do locks keep all burglars out? No, but they keep some burglars out. So it's better to, do some of these things and have some protection than to do nothing. The other analogy would be, I'm not going to walk around, holding a wad of $100 bills as I walk down the street. But I'm going to walk around, I can feel safe if I have a minimal amount of protection there. So you can do these things, just be careful what you do and where you put things. Did you have a comment, Stan? Or? The U.S. mail is just, because I'll have people, I used to have this discussion with people at 3M, and people would go, I'm not going to use the internet because I don't want any of my data exposed. And I go, no, 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 no. Your data is already out there. Whether you've used the internet or not, the bank that you do business with, you're in their database. So whether you use online banking, all your information is out there. So if you think not using some of these things is protecting you, it really isn't. It's still there.
And there's a lot of stuff that's pulling out of the U.S. mail too.
Yes, and the U.S. mail is certainly, you do hear things. So things can happen using any medium. Yeah.
And it's not just the individuals. I just saw an article where the latest breach at Microsoft for upload protection was caused by a compromised Microsoft engineers that they got into that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's so many ways that data can be done. So I get a kick out of the current ad on TV that Apple has, where if you want security, you definitely should have the iPhone. And I'm going, people certainly have a short-term memory. If you look at the number of breaches in that, there's actually been more breaches in the Apple side than there have been in the Android side. Because in the US, at least, I don't know what the current number is, there's more people with iPhones than there are with Android phones. So if I'm a hacker, I'm going after where are the users, where is the stuff, and hacks into the iPhone. People will go, well, it's encrypted, nobody's going to get in. Well, I don't know if you saw 2 weeks ago the place out in Israel that sells their encryption. They'll unencrypt any phone, and you can get into any phone. You can get at any data. You can get at any of these things if you have enough money and the right software and enough deals there. So all you can do is protect yourself where you can, but don't be afraid not to do anything there. Yes.
Any comments on software for phones, either Apple or Android, to
Well, I mentioned in here, I mean, there is AntiVirus for both sides. Apple does have some, and you do. What's that? For which? Preferred? Yeah, I mentioned in here a couple of 3 of the Android ones there.